What's up YouTube? Fred here. Hope you guys are having a great day. I've got another video for Fred's Full Throttle. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please consider it if you like any of my videos. And definitely give me a thumbs up for anything you like, and feel free to leave a comment. Alright, on to today's video. So for today's video, I'm going to do 5 things I don't like about the Mini Cooper S. It's a great car. I really like it. However, there are a couple things that I don't know what the designers were thinking. It seems like they kind of dropped the ball in a few areas. Alright, so the first thing that I wanted to point out that I'm not a fan of in this car is actually the parking brake. Now you may be thinking, wow, is he doing a lot of e-brake slides? Is he, being crazy with it? And it's nothing like that. It's actually just general functionality. So the engine's running right now. Generally when I park, I'll put it in first gear, I'll turn off the car like that. So now the engine stopped. I can let the clutch out, foot off the brake, and the car is staying in place. That's fine if you're parked in a parking lot, it's flat, there's no big problem. But if you have to park on a hill or you're parking anywhere where you just think, you know what, I want a little bit of added security just in case, you're like, oh, I'll use the e-brake. Or the parking brake is right here. So part of it, you can see it's a little bit wonky to have to like reach over the armrest here. This folds up and down, it opens up, you can put stuff inside of it. I've got my rubber glove and cash for gas stations. But when you actually want to pull the handle, watch what happens. So you pull up and it bumps directly into your armrest, and now your armrest is in an awkward position. So let me take this off. Oh, look at that. The armrest stayed up. You have to pull this lever and then lower it back down. It just seems like a wonky thing that is both hard to grab, and then when you let it go, the armrest stays in the position that it was in, and you have to then release it and set it back. So admittedly, that's not really that big of a concern. I always park in first gear. I don't really use the parking brake unless I'm on a hill. But that's a little bit of an annoyance, and it's something that then sometimes you'll be driving along like, wow, my armrest is a little high, and then you'll realize, oh yeah, I didn't put it back down after I used the parking brake. So that's the first thing that I'm not a fan of in this car. So the next thing that I'm not a big fan of is I'm not a big fan of the button that controls what song you're on and volume. The volume buttons are the two sides. So the left side is volume down, right side volume up, and then your song buttons are the up and down arrows. So up is previous song, down is next song. Maybe that makes a little bit of sense for like if you had a list of songs and you hit down, oh, I'm going to the next one in the list. But the volume doesn't make a lot of sense. My thought, if you turn it 90 degrees, you have up would be your volume, down would be your volume. So I want it louder, you turn it up. You want it quieter, you turn it down. And then songs would be, left would be previous song, so I'm going back, just like in a book, or right would be your next song. Alright, so the next thing I'm not a big fan of is the center multifunction display for the car. The screen's really good, it's high resolution, the menus are responsive and snappy, but there's a couple big flaws for it. One is if you don't have the GPS in the car, there is nothing for you to really keep the menu on. It doesn't have a lot of stuff that it can give you. You can change settings, you can change songs, and that's about it. There's a gauge where you can look at the fuel economy of the car. There's a gauge where you can look at like the power that the car makes. But beyond that, there's actually not much there. The bigger downside to that is that there is no way to upgrade my car. I mean, I don't know if it's all of them, but my car, you can't upgrade to buy GPS after the fact. It's not a little chip, it's not a software upgrade. It just physically doesn't have the hardware to do GPS. I asked at the dealership right when I got the car, oh, hey, can I just add GPS? No, you can't. You have to have bought it with that from the factory, which seems like a missed opportunity to me. And then the other piece of that is that with that screen, it doesn't stay on the thing that you leave it on when you stop the car. Every single time you start it up, it goes back at least one menu, usually two, and you have to then, oh, I want the gauges for the horsepower. You have to click on it. Oh, I want to see the songs that I'm listening to. You have to click on it. It's fine. It's not a big deal, but it's kind of a minor annoyance. So this is my daily driver. I drive it to work. I drive it to commute. I drive it to go do all shopping and kind of anything I need to do on a normal day. And unfortunately, that means that I'm going through that menu every single time. A lot of times I just ignore it. Bluetooth will actually pick up where you left off on a song, and I don't really use the horsepower and like power and torque settings very much, but it's something to keep in mind. All right, so on to the next thing, and I'll have a little separate video clip about it, but it's the seats of the car. So the seats of the car are great. They're comfortable. The heated seats are the hottest ones I've ever had in any vehicle. Really, like, kind of remarkably hot, to the point where in the middle of winter I have to put it on the lowest setting just so I don't get too hot. That's all great. The part I don't like is the adjustable pads at the front of the seat. I think the intent is that the pad can slide forward or backwards so that it can be just the right distance, so it's behind your knee and giving you support under your legs, but it's not too long, so you can adjust it. Well, what that means is all the way adjusted back, which is where I keep it. Even though I'm tall, I don't really use the setting because my legs actually hover a little bit above the front of the seat. That means that there's a seam where everything's slid back and there's extra fabric kind of folded down in that seam. That fills with dust, with hair, with little grit that has bounced in off the mirrors if you drive with the windows open. And it really is something that I would say, like, every week or two you have to vacuum out, just because you end up with so much, like, little bits of stuff in there. And it's sort of an obvious thing. If you have a black leather like I do, you can actually see all that dust pretty easily. I try to keep my car reasonably clean. Obviously I keep some stuff for my dog in the back. She rides around in this whenever I take her to doggy daycare or go for a walk. So I can't avoid the dog hair, but the car really shows off dust when you have it, and the seat is probably the worst offender for any of that. So the next criticism for the car is the kind of pre-scheduled maintenance stuff that the car will give you. Now, when I first got the car, I thought it was great. Hey, 5,000 miles to an oil change. So you sort of know what's coming, and there's no real impact other than that. It tells you, and then at the point where you're ready for an oil change, it says, hey, go schedule an oil change. No problem. A lot of cars do that. The part I don't like is that it seems to also have various services or maintenances that are also scheduled that you don't have any control over. A couple thousand miles ago, I started getting a notification, hey, in 4,000 miles you have service, hey, in 2,000 miles you have service, etc. Well, I couldn't see what that service was for. I couldn't find anywhere in the menus that told me, so I thought, okay, that's a little odd. I wasn't due for an oil change because I had already just gotten one. So it's something that I really wasn't sure what it was going to be. I called the dealership. They're like, unless you bring it in, we can't tell you what it is. We have to, like, plug in a computer to it. Okay, so I'm just going to keep driving. Well, I did keep driving it. And right before this whole virus thing happened, I finally came across that. I was on the highway. I've been on cruise control for at least an hour or so. Hadn't touched the brakes, hadn't stopped the car or anything. And all of a sudden it comes up, you know, with a big logo on the screen, get your brakes checked, pads are low. That's odd. I haven't used the brakes at all in the last hour or so, and I know that this was scheduled. Like, it's been telling me about it. Turns out that that's something where they have some pre-programmed mileage. I believe on this car it came in right around 42,000 miles, where it said, hey, check your brakes, hey, check your brakes. I'd only at that point owned the car maybe 6 months. I am very doubtful that I've burned through 8/10 of my brake pads in that amount of time. And especially the biggest thing is when that light came on, I was on the highway, cruise control 65, 70. I hadn't touched the brakes in a long time, and it came on exactly at that mileage where it had told me it was going to be scheduled. So the problem I have with that is that is kind of a pre-prescribed thing. I can't turn off the notifications. I've got a red light. It's the same red light that's used that says brake right on my gauge cluster. It's the same one that when you pull the parking brake, it tells you that the parking brake's on. It's the same light. Can't get rid of that. That stays on until I go and get this dealt with. And then every time I start up the car, the screen that I have to actually click OK. It says, hey, your brakes are low, drive moderately. I find that a little bit annoying, especially because I can't turn it off. And most likely they're going to take a look at the brakes, reset the light, push it out, you know, however far, and I won't have to deal with it. But that means I have to go to the dealership. I have to schedule some time to do it. Just sort of an annoyance more than anything. So those are the 5 things about the car that I'm not a big fan of. Other than that, the car is really great. I've got, I think, about 15,000 miles on the car so far, and it is one of the best cars I've ever owned. It is fun to drive. It looks good. It sounds good. It's a lot more spacious inside than I thought, and really a great car. I hope this is valuable. I hope if you're considering a Mini Cooper that you consider some of the things I said. It's just good to go into any kind of purchase with your eyes open so that you know what to expect. But anyway, thank you for watching. Have a great day, and I will see you guys next time. Fred out.